Thank you very much, Ms. Kang, for moderating the panel discussion, and to all our panelists for their insights regarding the development cooperation and humanitarian assistance area. Now we're moving on to our second panel discussion, which will be on the topic of multilateral climate action for people and the planet. And again, I would like to remind the speakers and the panelists for this particular session to turn on their microphones and cameras. Now I would like to invite our moderator, Mr. Gunbolt, who is the head of SCAP's East and Northeast Asia office, to guide us through the discussion. Mr. Gunbolt, the floor is yours.
Thank you, dear colleagues. As we are in the final run-up to the upcoming United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26, it is very timely and added value to convene this panel discussion on multilateral climate action for people and planet. I'm very pleased to moderate this session. We will begin with two special remarks from the Korean government, followed by a joint presentation delivered by 6 UN offices based in Korea. Then we will finish with a panel discussion joined by lead experts and youth representative. Now let me welcome our first speaker, Mr. Lee Byung-hwa, Director General for Climate Change Policy, Minister of Environment, Republic of Korea, for his special remarks. Mr. Lee has extensive experiences in a range of domestic and international environmental issues while serving in the positions of the Director for Chemicals Policy, Director for Resources Circulation Policy, and Director General for Policy Planning from 2014 to 2021. Mr. Lee, floor is yours.
네, 반갑습니다. 환경부 기후변화 정책관 이병화입니다.
Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, I'm Byung-ha Lee, Director General for Climate Change Policy of the Ministry of the Environment. Congratulations on the 30th year's anniversary of Korea joining the UN. As you are well aware, the most important issue in the international community is carbon neutrality. Many countries around the world are declaring carbon neutrality goals, and Korea also announced its plan for carbon neutrality by 2050. And especially in last month, Korea enacted and declared the Basic Act on Carbon Neutrality, becoming the 14th country in the world to specify carbon neutrality goals in legislation. And on the 18th of October, the Carbon Neutrality Commission discussed and passed the 2050 carbon neutrality scenario and the plan to increase NDC. In particular, the 2030 NDC will sharply increase from 26.3% to 40%. Considering that Korea has been slower on reaching emissions peak and has a high portion of manufacturing in the economy, the target is quite challenging. But more recently, the importance of climate action is being stressed in multilateral settings, and we feel that we need climate action that is commensurate with Korea's economy, scale, and international status. And so as a middle-standing country, we will take the leadership and will serve as a bridge between developing countries and developed nations. And also the COP26 is scheduled for November this year. So in that occasion, Korea will announce the upgraded 2030 NDC targets, reaffirming its strong determination for climate action. Marking the 30th anniversary of Korea joining the United Nations, today's forum is being held, which is really meaningful, and one of the major issues to be discussed is the role of Korea in multilateral cooperation for climate issues. So it is very timely to do so, and thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. General Lee, for your insights, how Korea's domestic the carbon neutrality strategies will be linked with Korea's international cooperation. Our next special remarks comes from Mr. Choi Myung-gyu, Director General, Disaster Management Policy Bureau, Ministry of Interior and Safety. Mr. Choi has extensive experiences in a range of domestic disaster management recovery issues, while serving in the positions of the Director of the Disaster Recovery Division, Director General for the Special Disaster Support. Now let's hear from Director General Choi.
예, 안녕하십니까. 행정안전부
Hello everyone.
재난관리정책관
My name is
신은규입니다.
Myung-gyu Choi, Director General for
대한민국의
Disaster
UN 가입
Management Policy
30주년을
Bureau of the
기념하는
Ministry of
이번
the Interior
포럼에
and Safety,
참석하게 되어
Republic of Korea.
영광이고
It's such an honor to
자리를
take
마련해
part in
주신
this monumental
위원과
forum that
외교부에
celebrates 30th
감사의
anniversary
말씀을
of the
드립니다.
Republic of Korea joining the United States.
미국의
I'd
한파,
like to
유럽의
convey
폭염,
my
그리고
gratitude to the
중국의
UN and
폭우까지
Korea's Ministry of Foreign
최근
Affairs for
이상기후로
organizing
인한
this
재난이
important
세계
event.
곳곳에서
Over the decades,
발생하고
we have
있으며
witnessed
이로
disasters that are
인해
introduced or
세계인의
induced
약
by climate change,
85% 이상이
having
영향을
disastrous
받은 바
impacts on
있습니다.
every part of the world. Cold wave in the
기후재난이
US,
세계적인
heat
영향을
wave that
끼치는
recently struck
상황에서
Europe, and heavy rainfall in
행정안전부는
China, to name a few.
UN
It has
재난위험
been
경감
reported that more than
사무국을
85%
주된
of the entire
파트너로 하여
population on Earth is
기후위기
placed under the
극복과
impacts of
재난
climate change.
경감에 앞장서고
This
있습니다.
critical moment, Korea's Ministry of
제3차
the Interior and Safety is
세계재난위험
taking the lead in
경감회의에서
mitigating the impacts
샌다이
of climate change
프레임워크가
and disaster risk
채택된 이래
reduction in close partnership with
강령을
the UN Office for
제4차
Disaster Risk Reduction.
국가안전관리
Following the adoption
기본계획에
of the Sendai
반영하고
Framework for Disaster
충실히
Risk
이행하여
Reduction at the Third UN
21년
World Conference on
샌다이
Disaster
프레임워크
Risk
회의의
Reduction in
우수국가로
2015, Korea
선정된
has
바가
set a role
있습니다.
model in the international community
또한
by integrating the
UN-DRR
framework in its fourth
본부가 사무소와
National Basic
국제기획
Safety
훈련
Management Plan
연수원을
and
적극
successfully putting it
지원하여
into practice.
기후변화 적응을
Moreover,
바탕으로 하는
MOIS is working
지속 가능한
collaboratively with
발전이 이루어질 수
UN-DRR
있도록
Office for Northeast
영내
Asia and Global
국가들의
Education and Training
재난관리 역량
Institute
개발을
to promote
도모하고
capacity
있습니다.
building of the countries in the
특히
region for effective
UN-DRR의
disaster risk
중점
reduction and
사업인
sustainable development
MCR
based on climate change
2030과 관련하여
adaptation. In particular,
지방자치단체들과
MOIS,
적극적으로
along with
프로그램에
local government,
참여하고
is actively
있으며
engaging in making
서울,
cities
인천,
resilient
울산이
2030 initiative,
재난위험
one of the
경감
core
롤모델
programs of
도시로 선정되는
UN-DRR.
결과를
As a
이루었습니다.
consequence, Seoul, Incheon, and Ulsan
나아가
City have been
재난 경감을
nominated
위한
as a
각종
model city
국제회의에
for
적극적으로
disaster risk
참여하여
reduction, with their capacity to
기후변화를
counter
고려한
climate
한국의
and disaster
재난관리
risk
정책을
being fully
공유하고
recognized.
있습니다.
Furthermore, MOIS has been
세계적인
sharing Korea's
기후재난을
experience and
극복하기 위해서는
policies regarding
타자
disaster
협력이
management and climate
필수적이며
change
그
by
협력의
partaking in a
중심점인
number of
유엔의
international
역할이 더욱
conferences themed
중요한
on disaster risk
시점입니다.
reduction. Multilateral
이러한
cooperation is essential
차원에서
to overcome
내년에
global
개최되는
climate
재난위험
disasters,
경감
and the role of the
글로벌
United
플랫폼은
Nations situated at the
유엔과
center
세계
of the
각국의
multilateral
연대와
cooperation is even
협력을
more
보여주는
crucial than ever.
좋은
In that
사례이며
sense, it would be very
기후위기
timely to
극복을 위한
showcase successful
획기적인 자리가
multilateral
되기를
cooperation between
기대합니다.
countries and to discuss
또한
innovative
세계
solutions to
각국은
climate change during the seventh
UN-DRR을
session of the
중심으로
Global Platform for
기후재난
Disaster Risk
대응을 위한
Reduction, which will
기술,
be held in
인적 교류를
2022.
확대하여
In similar vein,
적극적으로
UN-DRR can
기후재난에
facilitate
대응해
technology
나아가야
and
할
human
것입니다.
resources exchange between countries to
앞으로도
counter disasters induced by
대한민국과
climate
유엔의
change. I hope that
뜻깊은
the
협력이
partnership and collaboration
계속되기를
between Korea
희망하며
and the UN stays
행정안전부
strong and
또한
persistent.
기후
The
위기
Ministry of Interior
극복과
and Safety will
재난
continue to
경감을 위한
support the international
국제사회
community's
운동에
endeavor to
적극적으로
mitigate climate
동참할
change and
것을
reduce disaster risks.
약속드립니다.
Thank you.
감사합니다.
Thank you, Dr. General Choi. Indeed, it has become whenever important to build and strengthen the synergies between the climate change and disaster risk reduction, especially under this ever-intensifying climate crisis. Now, let's move on to my fellow UN colleagues who will deliver a joint UN presentation. First, let me invite my colleague, Dr. Sang-min Nam, Deputy Head of Office, ESCAP, East and Northeast Asia Office.
Good morning, participants, and thank you for joining this session. On behalf of UN-ESCAP East and Northeast Asia Office, I will highlight a few points on the work of ESCAP on climate change. Also, it's a partnership with the Korean government and Korean agencies, as well as many civil society organizations. So next slide, please. ESCAP is a regional arm of the United Nations in Asia Pacific, and it has 53 members and 9 associate members. The fundamental mandate of ESCAP is to promote cooperation among its member states and also associate members on solutions to sustainable challenges. As we know, now climate change is the most significant challenge for humanity. And in particular, Asia Pacific region, or we also call ESCAP region, is responsible for more than 50%. So as of 2018, these Asia Pacific countries were jointly emitting 52% of global GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. Meanwhile, the emissions from this Asia Pacific is still growing, and its share in global emissions are also increasing. So this is a major challenges. Meanwhile, as you can see the maps, this is a map of climate risks. And there are, maybe it might not be easy to see the list of top 10 countries having most vulnerable situation with regard to climate change. Out of 10 countries, 6 countries are located in Asia. Philippines, Thailand, Nepal, Pakistan. And so in terms of human casualties, Myanmar and Philippines were most seriously hit by climate-related disasters. In terms of economic loss, Thailand and Pakistan, Philippines are all the top countries in the world. So while this ESCAP region is increasing its emissions, it is being heavily hit by climate-related disasters. So we have to, this is the most important challenge to sustainable development. Next, please. And also, when it comes to Northeast Asia, as you can see, here we have the trend of China, Japan, Korea, and EU and world. So those are 6, and also we have 3 more countries. So 6 Northeast Asian countries share more than 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions. And also 6 countries are accountable for almost 70% of ESCAP, Asia Pacific's greenhouse gas emissions. So this Northeast Asia has a critical role in shaping the future of the Paris Agreement and stabilizing global temperature. Meanwhile, Japan has been stabilizing its emission from 2013, and Korea seems to stabilize its emission from 2018. So which means we need a very sharp and rapid cut in the emission in order to achieve carbon neutrality goals announced recent years. And in this connection, ESCAP is trying to promote trilateral, multilateral cooperation among Northeast Asian countries. And one is this Northeast Asian Sub-Regional Program for Environmental Cooperation. So ESCAP Eastern Northeast Asia Office is serving as the secretariat, and it has 5 program areas. Amongst those program areas, low carbon cities are certainly critical element on climate change. And also we are working on land degradation and climate change nexus. Especially Mongolia and China are facing significant land degradation issues. So, and also air pollution, which has been most important work for NEASP for many years. And by reducing air pollution, certainly there is a co-benefit to reduce carbon emissions. Next slide, please. When it comes to partnership with the ROK, Korean society, Korean government, I wish to highlight the 3 points. First one is collaborating for multilateral and sub-regional cooperation. So, through this NEASP, Northeast Asian Sub-Regional Program for Environmental Cooperation, we have this low carbon city program, as I mentioned earlier. So in this program, we are collaborating with Korean agencies, specialized agencies like Korean Environmental Institute. And also this program is being funded by Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Korea. So, and then utilizing technical expertise for Northeast Asian program or Asia Pacific programs, we are highly utilizing expertise from Korean specialized agencies. One is Korea Environmental Cooperation we also operate the Seoul Initiative Network on Green Growth with the Korean government since 2005. This is a key platform to support environmental management in many other countries in Asia Pacific. And also it is encouraging its work on climate change and mobilizing or providing financial resources. In collaboration with the COICA, we worked on low carbon green growth roadmap for Asia Pacific, and most recently we worked on climate change action in ASEAN countries. So with regard to climate changes, our partnership with the Korean government and Korean agencies are very critical. So with that, let me conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nam. Now, I'd like to invite Ms. Kim Yoo-jung, Senior Development Management Expert, United Nations Office for Sustainable Development, for her presentation. Ms. Kim. Yeah, please unmute yourself. Now we see your, yeah.
Sorry about this.
Okay, now it's everything's all set now. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gunvold, and my apologies for that. It's my great honor to participate in this commemorative forum to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Republic of Korea's membership to the United Nations. On behalf of UNOSD, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to the Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the UN community operating in Korea for jointly organizing this special event. I feel especially much obliged to participate in this event as the year 2021 also marks the beginning of the second phase of UNOSD's operation. Next slide, please. UNOSD, United Nations Office for Sustainable Development, is a project office of the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. It was established in Incheon, Korea in 2011 under the framework of a host country agreement with the Korean government and a memorandum of understanding with its Ministry of Environment. Our mandate is to support the development pillar of the UN Secretariat by ensuring international cooperation in pursuit of sustainable development for all. Specifically, we are engaging to strengthen the capacity of member states, especially developing countries, to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its 17 SDGs, and also other internationally agreed development goals. We do this through various means of implementation, including capacity development, research, partnership building, policy advisory, and to help decision makers and stakeholders to plan, strategize, and implement the SDGs. We are organizing flagship activities every year, including the Executive Training Course for Policymakers, Sustainable Development Transformation Forum, International Mayors Forum, and SDGs Youth Summer Camp. Next, please. So UNOSD has shed special light on the importance of climate action through a number of activities. In partnership with the Greenhouse Gas Inventory and Research Center, GIR, of Korea, we have organized Greenhouse Gas Inventory System training workshop annually to build capacities of countries in the Asia-Pacific region. Under the Paris Agreement to limit global warming to below 2 degrees Celsius and preferably to 1.5 degrees Celsius, each country needs to set up their own greenhouse gas reduction target, officially communicated through its nationally determined contributions, NDCs. An initial and important step for this goal is to establish a transparent and reliable inventory system so that a country can accurately monitor and verify the current state of emissions. And our training workshop serves this purpose to develop the capacities of various stakeholders in different sectors to properly establish and manage the greenhouse gas inventories. Now, in addition to this training workshop, we teamed up again with the GIR last May and successfully co-hosted a side event to the 2021 Seoul P4G Summit with a focus on low emission development to achieve carbon neutrality and SDGs. We have been also actively participating in UNFCCC COPs to share knowledge on climate change and SDGs. At the COP25 in 2019, we held 4 side events, and we are taking part again in the upcoming COP26 in Glasgow in November by organizing side events with special focus on fossil fuel to renewable energy transition, advancing greenhouse gas inventory systems, and green deals as a tool to accelerate ecosystem restoration, climate action, and SDGs implementation. Next slide, please. We believe multilateral action is essential in tackling the climate change. Geographically located in Incheon, UNOSD has greatly benefited from the strong partnerships we built with Korea. Since 2012, we have collaborated with over 66 international organizations, government entities, NGOs, and academic institutions on a global, national, and local level. The strong partnerships with the ROK has made it possible for us to strengthen the level and range of engagement. Delivering 120 activities that gathered over 3,500 participants, UNOSD has engaged with 172 countries, which accounts for 89% of the UN member states. We have served as a bridge for global communication and cooperation between Korea and the international community for implementation of the SDGs and for global climate action. With the launching of the second phase early this year, we will continue to enrich our existing partnerships with the partners in Korea under the guidance of UNDESA. And we will also endeavor to establish new partnerships with other UN offices, agencies, governments, NGOs, private sector, civil societies, and academia for tackling the global climate crisis and for successfully implementing our mission to support achievement of the 2030 Agenda. So if you would like to know more about UNOSD activities, please visit our website at unosd.un.org, our Facebook page, Twitter, and YouTube channel. I hope you stay connected with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. And now I would like to invite Ms. Sarah Wade Apicella, Program Management Officer, United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction for Northeast Asia and Global Education and Training Institute. Sarah?
Thank you, Gambold, and good day to all of you. And thank you to MOFA and our UN family for organizing this important 30th anniversary and dialogue. I'm pleased to share on behalf of the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, or UNDRR, how we are contributing and working with the Republic of Korea to support multilateral climate action. Next slide, please. UNDRR's vision is a world where disaster risk no longer threatens the well-being of people and the future of the planet. This is a vision that underscores that reducing risk is everybody's business and one that requires multilateral cooperation. Protecting people is, of course, core to SDGs, the Decade for Action, and the UNDRR mandate and Korean policies, including for disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. So how does our mandate contribute and support Korea's multilateral efforts on protecting people? UNDRR was first established by the UNGA General Assembly in 1999 as the UN system focal point to ensure synergies across disaster risk reduction activities. This means working together across the UN family with national government as well as intergovernmental organizations, local authorities, the business sector, civil society, and broad stakeholder groups, including youth. UNDRR oversees the implementation of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, developed and then adopted by member states in 2015. It is a global action-oriented blueprint for reducing disaster risk and losses from natural and man-made hazards and related environmental, technological, and biological hazards, many exacerbated by climate change. The Sendai Framework works hand in hand with the SDGs and other 2030 Agenda agreements, including the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. UNDRR supports countries to implement and monitor the framework and share what works to reduce existing risk and prevent the creation of new risk. This includes climate change adaptation. From our office here in Incheon, we support and work with China, Japan, Mongolia, the Republic of Korea, and DPR Korea through our Office for Northeast Asia, or ONIA, while our Global Education and Training Institute, or GETI, facilitates global capacity development for climate and disaster resilience planning and action. In addition, our office serves as the Global Secretariat for Making Cities Resilient 2030 initiative, facilitating city-to-city learning and local resilience action. Next slide, please. Protecting planet is also core to the SDGs and UNDRR's mandate, as well as Republic of Korea's policies for disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. The Sendai Framework calls to invest in the economic, social, health, cultural, and educational resilience of people, communities, and countries, and the environment. UNDRR promotes and provides guidance to scale up comprehensive climate and disaster risk management, including how to integrate the DRR agenda with the climate agenda, among others, such as the humanitarian development peace nexus. This approach puts risk to human and ecological systems at the center of planning and action and promotes nature-based solutions and links with environmental conventions. UNDRR helps enable such international cooperation, which is vital for good global governance of risk in the face of planetary emergencies. Next, please. So how does UNDRR support the Republic of Korea in advancing multilateral climate action for people and planet? I'd like to tell you that the Sendai Framework has 7 global targets, and Target F calls to substantially enhance international cooperation to developing countries through adequate and sustainable support to complement national actions. In addition to UN Day in October, every October 13th is the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. And this year, we focused on Target F for international cooperation. One key message is that more international, regional, and bilateral programs are needed for DRR-related capacity development in developing countries, which links to how UNDRR is supported by the Republic of Korea to advance multilateral climate action. The UNDRR office in Incheon was established in 2010 with support of Ministry of Interior and Safety and Incheon Metropolitan City to promote disaster resilient societies and develop a cadre of trained professionals in these areas. This support demonstrates Korea's commitment to international cooperation, to share experience and technologies with the international community to reduce disaster risk for humanity. Next. It is with this support from the Republic of Korea and together with our partners, including KOICA, NDTI, and others globally and in Korea, I want to briefly highlight some results. We have reached 186 countries, training over 15,000 professionals, reaching over 40,000 participants in events, who tell us that they have integrated disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation into policies, strategies, and actions as a result of participation. And during the challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, we extended our training online, which dramatically extended our reach to new audiences and persons who might not otherwise be able to attend face-to-face events. Early responses to COVID from China and the Republic of Korea were shared and appreciated. The Global Hub for Making Cities Resilient, MCR 2030 initiative, was launched through a grand partnership to enhance cities' abilities to know, plan, and implement better. UNDRR has led a UN interagency mission to DPR Korea and will continue supporting risk-informed development. We have shared best tech for DRR practices together with UN family and Korean partners. And here in the Republic of Korea, the Korean School Safety Program towards a culture of prevention has reached over 4,000 students, almost 3,000 educators since 2011. The program is now part of the National Safety Education Program, and lessons have been shared globally and regionally. Later, we'll hear from one Incheon High School student who has participated in the program and shared her knowledge globally. So all of this promotes multilateral climate and disaster reduction action. We ask you to help make every day a DRR day, #OnlyTogether, and connect with us online at undrr.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Next, I invite Mr. Ning Liu, Program Management Officer, United Nations Environment Program, Northwest Pacific Action Plan, NOPAP.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure on behalf of Northwest Pacific Action Plan to introduce our activities and also the cooperation with the government of Republic of Korea. So next, please. The Northwest Action Plan was established in 1994. It is part of United Nations Environmental Program's Regional CIS program. So we have 4 member states. They are China, Japan, Korea, and Russia. And the overall goal of NOPAP is to protect the marine and the coastal environment. Next, please. Next slide, okay. We have 4 regional activity centers, and they work on spatial monitoring and the coastal assessment, data and information networking, marine environment, emergency preparedness and response, and also pollution monitoring. So the Regional Activity Center of Marine Environmental Emergency Preparedness and Response is based in Daejeon, Korea, and hosted by the government of Korea, and especially the Korean Coast Guard provide great support to these regional activity centers. For NOPAP, the Secretariat has 2 offices. One is based in Busan, Korea. Another is based in Toyama, Japan. And the Republic of Korea gave great support since the establishment of NOPAP. Next, please. Our work is not mainly to address climate change, but more or less has a direct or indirect linkage with climate change. So firstly, we work on integrated coastal and river basin management. So the climate change is one of the important factors to be considered in this management. Next, please. We also assess the status of marine environment. We have conducted a number of research, such as harmful algal blooms, and also set the ecological target for this region. And next, please. We also work on prevention and the reduction of pollution. And the regional oil and hazardous and noxious substance spill contingency plan was adopted in 2008. And the Korean-based regional activity center is in charge of this activity. with the global warming, the process, the extreme weather events may increase. So the marine safety is also a very important issue to address. We also work on marine litter issue. Next, please. For the conservation of biodiversity, we are in the process to develop the regional action plan on marine and coastal biodiversity conservation. We also conduct research on red list species, and one project is directly linked to climate change is assess seagrass blue carbon. This is ongoing. And the scientists also conduct the research on the impact of global warming on the marine ecosystems. So they have some funding about this research. The species may migrate. So NOPAP is a very important mechanism for regional ocean governance. And on behalf of NOPAP, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the government of Korea for the long-term support to this mechanism. We will continue to work with the Republic of Korea to protect the marine and the coastal environment in this region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nin Liu. Now, I'd like to invite Ms. Nara Lee, Assistant Representative, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, Partnership and Liaison Office.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nara Lee. I'm the Assistant FAO Representative of the Partnership and Liaison Office in the Republic of Korea. I'm honored to present at this important event on behalf of FAO Korea Office. Next, please. To begin with, I'd like to share FAO's mandate and its relationship with the Republic of Korea. As you can see from the slide, FAO's mandates are to improve nutrition, increase agricultural productivity, raise the standard of living in rural populations, and contribute to global economic growth. And these mandates can be achieved by securing food for all. The joint partnership between FAO and ROK began 72 years ago, on November of 1949. Ever since, FAO and ROK have been cooperating through various initiatives and programs. Next, please. Moving forward, I'd like to brief you on how FAO contributes to ROK's efforts on protecting people. FAO is a custodian agency of 2030 SDG agenda, and it supports 62 out of 232 SDG indicators, which focus on achieving particularly SDG 1, 2, and 10. FAO presented the new strategic framework 2022-2031, focusing on transformation to more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food systems to achieve four betters: better production, better nutrition, better environment, and a better life. FAO also has many initiatives and programs, and I'd like to share some with you. The Hi initiative, or Hand in Hand initiative, is an evidence-based, country-led, and country-owned initiative of FAO to accelerate agricultural transformation and sustainable rural development to eradicate poverty and end hunger. Along Hi, FAO contributes to enhancing quality of lives through programs such as COVID Response and Recovery Program and Digital Village Initiative. In relation to cooperation with Korea, ROK is the 7th biggest voluntary contributor with over 30 funded programs. The projects are aimed to share ROK's experience, technology, and research with the international community. Next, please. And the next is how FAO contributes to ROK's multilateral efforts on protecting planet. FAO's main works can be divided into 5 different sessions. The first one is sharing information through flagship publications and statistics for better decision making. The State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World, which was published this year, is a great example of it. And the second is providing policy support. FAO provides international platforms for important issues such as food security, food safety, sustainable agriculture and rural development, climate change response, and more. The third is developing capacity building through supporting technical cooperation programs, and as well as technical and technology transfer. The fourth is sharing know-how, skills, expertise among countries with common challenges. And last but not least, FAO also provides meeting places for nations. UN Food Systems Summit, which was held on 23rd and 24th September, was a great example to address the importance of joining forces for the sustainable food systems and the future. Next, please. Even though FAO's Korea office does not have a long history, it has strived to strengthen partnership between FAO and ROK since its operational launch this April. We aim to promote visibility and outreach of FAO and share ROK's experience with the international community in the field of agriculture, food, fishery, and forestry. We also contribute to aligning priorities of ROK with FAO programs and priorities for resource mobilization. To achieve the goal, FAO Korea office has been working very closely with the Korean government through co-organizing various events, including P4G Seoul Summit, National Food Dialogues, and the International Forum on Eco-Farming and publishing policy briefs. We look forward to continuing the momentum by partnering with various stakeholders in ROK and other UN agencies to address global and regional challenges and solutions. Next, please. Thanks so much for your attention.
Thank you, Nara. Last but not least, I'd like to invite Ms. Lee Jin-won, National Professional Officer, WHO Asia Pacific Center for Environment and Health in the Western Pacific region, WHO ACE.
Thank you, Mr. Gambot. Thank you, our colleagues, for insightful presentation. Nice to meet you all. It's a great honor to introduce WHO ACE in this big event and celebrate 30th anniversary. Next, please. Next, please.
Ms. Jin-won, could you kindly turn one of the microphones off, or speakers, I think? It's causing a feedback loop.
Apologizes for, can you hear clearly?
Yeah, now it's all right, yeah.
Okay. So next, please. Sorry, I apologize for this. Next. The Republic of Korea's multilateral efforts in protecting people resort this center, WTO Asia Pacific Center for Environment and Health, ACE. So ACE has a mission to live up to the Republic of Korea's expectation and contribution. As a knowledge hub, we support member states in articulating policy options in areas relating to environment and health, such as air quality, climate change, water, and living environment. We collect, synthesize, and analyze evidence and share it for use by member states. ACE is an integral part of WHO Western Pacific Region Office. We work collaboratively on environmental health with other divisions in WHO Western Pacific region as below. Next, please. WHO's efforts on protecting people is shown at the white paper named For the Future. For the Future articulates a shared vision for WHO work with member states and partners in the coming years to 2024. For the Future identified climate change and the environment as one of 4 thematic priorities for the region going forward. Next, please. Korea's multilateral efforts on protecting planet would be linked to the efforts on climate change mitigation and adaptation. In August 2019, at the 13th Pacific Health Ministers meeting, the regional director announced the establishment of a WHO regional platform on climate change, environment, and health as a way of facilitating the implementation of the climate change and environment thematic priority. To support the implementation of the thematic priority and to act as the engine of the climate change environment platform, the Technical Advisory Group on Climate Change, Environment and Health was established in April 2020. Next, please. WHO ACE will support and be supported by Korea in advancing multilateral climate action for people and planet by activities from Technical Advisory Group on Climate Change, the Environment and Health. The Pillar 1, the yellow one, providing advocacy. This group aims to raise the profile of the climate change and environment agenda by building new narratives and articulating health benefits of actions and policies from non-health sectors. Pillar 2, the purple one, this group aims to build resilience into a health system to withstand the impacts of climate change and environment threats, including strengthening capacities to respond to emerging infectious disease due to climate change. Pillar 3, the blue one, monitoring the impact of climate change and environment on health. This group aims to provide timely, accurate, and strategic information to inform decision-making, guide advocacy, drive action, and track impacts and success of interventions. Pillar 4, the green one, applying climate change and environmental lens to our work. This group tried to make all WHO staff in the region understand the health impacts and act as agents of change, making their contribution towards achieving the healthiest and safest region. We will try to do our best to implement the priorities of 4 pillars of the climate change and environment thematic priority. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jin-Won. Colleagues, now let us move on to the panel discussion. We are very honored to have prominent experts and youth representatives with us today. Let me introduce the panelists first. Ambassador Son Sung-hwan, Executive Advisor for Incheon Climate and Environment Research Center and Vice President of the Korea-UN Association. He was also Ambassador for Climate Change of Korea and Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Sweden. Dr. Kim Hyun-ju, Director General, Green Technology Center of Korea. Dr. Kim oversees GTC's overall research activities on green technology policy and global technology cooperation, and also serves as a national focal point for UNFCCC on technology cooperation. Next, Dr. Kim Yoon-sun, Research Fellow, Green Energy Strategy Institute of Korea. Dr. Kim has been working in climate change and renewable energy sector with a focus on the deployment and acceptance of renewable energy. She is currently an expert member of the National Sustainable Development Committee of the Korean government. and the member of the Climate Energy Committee of the Korea Federation for Environmental Movements. Our last panelist is Ms. Ihajin. She is the third-year student at Incheon Haesong High School. She is the president of the student club Connected Culture, which aims to create insights and deep thinking skills for students on international issues. She is the Korean Youth Ambassador for High School Student Summit to World Tsunami Awareness Day in Japan in 2019. Also, president of the Red Cross Youth of Incheon Haesong High School, and participated in many campaigns, such as environmental cleanup campaign. So for this panel, our guiding questions will have emphasis on Korea's role in international multilateral cooperation on climate change. First, let me ask Ambassador Song, could you share with us your overall insights on Korea's current and possible future role, and what's needed to enable such future role on international multilateral cooperation on climate change? Ambassador Song.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Basaja, for inviting me this very meaningful forum discussions. Korea has tried to play a bridging role between advanced and developing country in climate change negotiation and global climate actions to implement the Paris Agreement. Let me first talk about Korea's status and role in the climate change negotiation under the UN-ROK 30th, and then followed by the policy area. Until the year 2000, Korea belonged to the G77 group representing developing countries' interest. But after Korea acceded to the OECD in 1996, it was not logical to stay in the G77 group anymore. So together with Mexico and Switzerland, we form a very fascinating group called the EIG, Environmental Integrity Group. As a new group member, Korea tried to be a bridge builder and strong advocate to progressive but pragmatic climate policies. We, as a group, tend to think that if we can get together and agree on something internally, we can get to the deals that are acceptable for almost every other countries. Despite its members' different interests, what keeps the group together is an aspiration to play a constructive role in the talks. And as a group member, Korea seeks to find the common grounds between blocs with different interests. On many occasions, the EIG group facilitated negotiation. Next, I will talk about the climate change policy area. Korea tries to expand the green growth strategy globally in the previous administration. As part of our effort, Korean government has led the establishment of the Green Growth Institute, Global Green Growth Institute, GGI. It was established in 2012 with 40 member states. GGI assists developing countries in addressing climate change through capacity building and project fundings. Korea also succeeded in hosting GCF in 2013 through an open bid process. Korea became one of the donor countries to the GCF from the start. And last year, Korea pledged to double the contribution to $200 million for the first round of funds replenishment period. By doing so, Korea will be the 9th largest contributors. We also have Green Technology Center established in 2013. So, but after the Paris Agreement, global response to global climate change focused on domestic policy and implementation, there are three essential means of implementation: finance and technology and capacity building. In each of the three categories, Korea has sought to nurture international cooperation. As I said, Korea was one of the few donor countries from the developing country group to the GCF. It will help to foster climate-friendly policy and technology worldwide. I hope that Korea could encourage as many middle-income developing countries as possible to join the donor group to support the GCF, thus expanding the funding base to support the GCF project and programs. Technology transfer also plays a critical role in effective global response to the climate change challenges of climate change, because some of the old fossil fuel dependent technology is source of greenhouse gases emissions. Mitigation requires innovation to make current technologies cleaner and climate resilient. To promote, facilitate, and finance the transfer of and access to climate technologies to developing countries, the UN-ROK 30th established Technology Executive Committee and the Technology Transfers Climate Technology Center and Network, CTCN. The CTCN is a mechanism implementation arms, and it supports countries to enhance the implementation of climate technology projects. Northeast Asia Regional Representative Office of CTCN will be established soon or later in Songdo, Incheon. I hope the regional office will serve as a key body in technology assistance and transfer to Asian neighbors by helping them secure various and innovative financial resources and transferring customized technologies. In establishment of CTCN's regional office in Songdo could fully exploit a triangular cooperation among the closely related institutions in Korea, namely the GCF, GGGI, and Korea's green technology centers. So if I'm allowed to say about the future role of Korea, or I'll have next questions, it's up to you. If I have other questions, I stop.
Yeah, we will still have some time for other questions for you, Ambassador.
Stop here. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ambassador, for sharing your views and insights to conceptualize and deepen this discussion for our panel. I'd like to address my next question to Dr. General Kim Hyun-joo. As you have worked extensively on technology cooperation with developing countries on climate change, what is your view on Korea's role in international multilateral cooperation on climate change from the perspective of the shared progress on technological development to address the climate change challenges?
Hello, everyone. My name is Hyun-joo Kim. Currently, I'm serving as Director General at the Green Technology Center, Korea. May I introduce briefly of my institution? The Green Technology Center, Korea is a South Korean government-affiliated research institution, very much specialized on technology policy and global cooperation. And as Ambassador Son indicated that our institute established in 2013, and after that we have been serving a lot of in domestic part of technology policy recommendation, as well as global cooperation, very much with GCF and CTCN. And Korea has historically not played a leadership role. However, over the past years, South Korea has continued to grow our role in international cooperation. I would like to indicate here the two examples. The P4Z, the Partnering for Green Growth and the Global Goals 2030. Seoul Summit was, I think, it's a great turning point for Korea's leadership in international and multilateral cooperation on climate change. And I'm also happy that GTC, my institution, served many aspects for this summit, and especially we support to shape philosophy of this initiative and also turn into as a background document. And this work was organized by my institution and collaborating with the Green Climate Fund and the Global Green Growth Institute, GGGI, and the World Resource Institute and the P4Z Secretariat. And the other example is, as also the Ambassador Son indicated, that we have last a few years strong collaboration with the UNFCCC technology mechanism, the CTCN, Climate Technology Center Networks. And the one very happy news is that the first liaison office of CTCN will be established in Songdo next year, maybe March next year. And I'm also very happy that we served for a few years to host this kind of liaison office in Korea. I hope and I expect that the collaboration through CTCN in for example, for in particular, the Asia Pacific area's technology cooperation on climate change will be strengthened. I am very happy. And in the next level, I would like to explain of the technology level. In particular, Korea is known that energy intensive manufacturing oriented country, and also known as a high-tech country. In terms of technology, I think there will be many opportunities to communicate with the international communities. For example, for longer term, future technologies such as hydrogen and the CCUS, carbon capture and utilization and storage technology, the South Korean government has a very strong plan to develop and deploy of these kind of technologies and ecosystems. And I think there are the variety and the multiple opportunities, potential with the international communities. However, for shorter term, as the International Energy Association indicated that energy efficiency technology have a large amount of the greenhouse gas reduction potential. And I believe this kind of area would be very important to collaborate with South Korea, with the international communities. And I hope as the Korean government has a very ambitious plan to invest in climate change area only for next year the Korean government has a plan to invest 10 billion US dollars on this area. And I think the South Korean society would generate and produce very diverse areas of best practices on technology area and also on policy instrument area. And I hope in next few years we have more potential to share this kind of best practice with the global society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. General Kim, for sharing the concrete technology cooperation examples and especially supporting the establishment of the Green Technology Center in Songdo next year. Very good news for the climate family here in Songdo. My next question is for Ms. Kim Yoon-song. What would be needed to realize such expectation on Korea's future role in advancing the current multilateral cooperation on climate change?
네, 먼저 오늘 의미 있는 자리에 초대해 주셔서 저당께 감사의 말씀을 먼저 드리겠습니다.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to this meaningful event.
기반한 규범의 도출, 또 포용성 같은 원칙들이 중요하기 때문에
So I think that actually consensus-based agreement is important. In order to make that happen, we need to understand each other. So we need to implement inclusiveness. And that is one of the best ways for cooperation. And one of the partners that Korea needs to cooperate with is North Korea. So we need to include North Korea in the multilateral system. And also we need to receive the consensus of the other stakeholders in order to include North Korea. So I think that South Korea needs to fulfill its obligations, and also it needs to strengthen its cooperation with civil societies. There are many capable and dedicated leaders in the civic groups or in the civil society, especially concerning energy and women empowerment. So I think that we need to further support civil society. And in the Asia Pacific, we need to reinforce energy cooperation. ASCOP is running low carbon city program that was mentioned, and such a program is important. It is because that in the Asia Pacific, of course, there's a lot of population, but rapid industrialization and urbanization are taking place in this region. And renewable energy is needed in order to accommodate the needs of the households in urban areas. And also it will be good for meeting the needs of the transportation. So the urbanization means that there will be changes in our villages and in our settings. So Korea needs to take the leadership in making this innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. Indeed, this net zero targets to be achieved through the energy transition is needed scaling up multilateral cooperation anchored on rapid development towards achieving this carbon neutrality. So my next question to Ms. Lee, who's the youngest student and the leader of the future. So what is missing and needs to be strengthened in your view?
First, I want to thank everyone for letting me have this special opportunity to speak here on behalf of the future generation of Korea. Listening to the panels, I could see that Korea has done a lot internationally, and I am amazed at how Korea has developed so quickly in a couple of decades. As I was preparing for this forum, I got to know that Korea has emerged as a regional leader in climate change planning and response within Asia. However, I believe that we can do more and play a bigger leading role through education. I think there still is a lack of education on the subject of climate change. When I first saw a documentary and actually learned about the seriousness of climate change, I felt so betrayed. At school, it seemed like a simple problem, something that could be fixed through riding bikes or using less plastic. But we all know that it is way more than that. Me and my classmates all agree that we never got the education that we truly needed. I believe the most important thing needed is the public's participation, and by the public, I mean including students. By educating students from young age about the importance of climate action, I believe that the public's interest in climate change will increase automatically, which can also impact businesses and financial institutions to join in. Currently, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is launching the Green Roundtable to discuss ways to strengthen cooperation between international organizations and domestic agencies related to many climate change. I think we should expand this so that many middle and high school students can participate in similar forums to understand more about the importance of multilateral climate change. Also, it will be meaningful because students get to provide their own input on this topic. Even if there are programs to help students to engage on climate action, if students do not know or care about this problem, or do not know the seriousness about this problem, they will not participate. So I believe that we should emphasize this problem more at school, in class, and with other awareness-raising programs at school from young age, so that students will know the seriousness of this problem and participate. Also give ideas on Korea's climate action and take on as leaders globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Yajin. So indeed, this education and public participation is the key for both the international community and countries and communities if we really want to achieve substantive, meaningful, significant progress on our climate action. So let me come back to Ambassador Song with a specific question that came through the chat box. So how can Korea extend their global cooperation on climate action, particularly with emerging countries like Indonesia? So maybe a few words before, so we cut short on the Korea's future role on international multilateral cooperation on climate change, and then maybe you could address this specific, the country specific, the question. Ambassador Song.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the floor again. I will talk about the Korea's future role in enhancing the cooperation in the climate action globally. And as many panelists indicated, Korea is in a very advantageous position to expand the support to developing countries in responding to climate change in many ways through the enhanced support to the climate-related international organization based in Korea, such as GGGI and GCF and CTC and Regional Representative Office and Green Technology Centers. We can provide more coordinated and tailor-made and packaged support to the developing countries. One promising area Korea could significantly contribute to is the capacity building area. With the cooperation with the GCF and GGGI, Korea could launch a more systematic capacity building training program to make the potential recipient developing countries more prepared to make bankable project proposal to secure funding support from the GCF and GGGI. Right now, it is not the opportune time because travel from Korea, between Korea and other places in the world is severely restricted. However, if situation ameliorate, we have to give the serious thought to having a very full-fledged systematic capacity building programs in the area of bankable project making and securing funding to the on the part of developing countries. And through the training program, participants from developing countries get familiarized with the innovative technology of the Korean companies such as EV batteries and hydrogen technology, and could utilize them to complete the technology section of the future GCF and GGI project proposal. And in Korean Foreign Ministries launched the Green Round Table in 2016. By last year, 7 rounds was held. The meeting provides a good opportunity to strengthen the coordination among relevant organizations, both international and domestic, to enhance the effectiveness of the support, Korea's support to the developing countries. Asia is a very climate disaster prone region. Asian countries has become more vulnerable to extreme climate events such as typhoons, heavy flooding, and droughts. In adaptation and climate resilience, we also have in Busan the APCC, APEC Climate Centers. It contributes to the development APEC members' climate change response and adaptation ability in climate prediction technologies and the know-how of climate information application. We heard about the presentation about the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction Office for Northeast Asia, UN-DRR. So we have a bunch of climate-related international organizations and matching domestic institutions. So having said that, Korea is very advantageous position to provide all-inclusive, packaged and tailor-made support to the needy developing countries for the climate actions and adaptations. So in conclusion, as the hub for many climate-related international organizations and many domestic institutions, Korea is well poised to provide wide-ranging and packaged support to many developing countries that are more and more exposed to climate risk. So I hope Korea continues to strengthen the coordination and cooperation among all related institutions to enhance more effective support to the developing countries in the region and globally. So may I briefly answer to the question from the Indonesian participant? So so I could not pinpoint it's not very easy to answer to pinpoint the Indonesian situation, but in general terms, and Korea has many international organizations and domestic institution. I elaborated some of them, and COICA, we have also developed an assistant organization. There are many climate-related programs, so you can look through those programs, and if you find some of them might be very opportune to be applied to your domestic situation, you can try to connect in touch with them and try to find how you can utilize those programs to your domestic context. And also there are some global NGOs working in Korea and in other parts of Asia. So through the kind of searching activities, exercise, you could find some of the good opportunity to match the funding sources here in Korea with the local need in your country. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. It's really encouraging to hear Korea's commitment to provide systematic, tailor-made, and enhanced capacity building and technical support to developing countries through diversified funding channels and partners. So we are running out of time. So there is one, 2, 3 more questions, but because of this time constraint, so I don't want to keep our panel members to wait. So just one last question to Ms. Ihajin. So how can the general public be more involved in disaster risk reduction? So your quick points or views would be very much appreciated. So for our audience.
Yes. Okay. So in 2019, I went to Japan for the high school student summit to World Tsunami Awareness Day. And there I learned about the importance of adaptation and resilience to tsunamis, and furthermore, the adaptation and resilience to other disasters such as droughts, floods, and sea level rise influenced by climate change. So I think that youth can learn a lot by participating in climate change international meetings where you can take part and participate in environmental organizations or participate in various governmental, non-governmental programs and projects. In addition, several Korean students right now are participating in the Fridays for Future campaign and are independently recognizing that the world should move as a community. Knowing the impact of multilateral cooperation, I believe that Korean students can take on the role of promoting campaign activity globally using K-pop, SNS, and trends. So I think that is the way to enhance, to be more involved in this situation as students and as citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Ihajin. So now, I'm really sorry to have to close this our panel discussion because of the time and scheduled time for us. So I thank our UN colleagues for the very comprehensive presentation, full of important technical updates, and as well as the very insightful guidance on the way forward on our multilateral climate action. And also I'd like to thank our panel members for their candid views and insights, and also how the businesses, governments, and general public and the youth's role in achieving this climate targets globally and regionally and at national level, the community level, to attain this sustainable development goals, and as well as make progress on our climate action. And I thank everybody who were sending the questions through the channels, the chat box. So, and I appreciate for your time, and so stay safe and healthy. So after the lunch break, so we will continue for our next panels. Thank you.